Unit 68. The honeybee. Honeybees are the only insects that make food eaten by man. These bees are social insects. They live and work in large groups. The group or colony may contain as many as 50,000 bees. A single bee may live only a few weeks. The colony, however, may go on living for many years. The queen herself may live as long as 5 years. After mating with only one drone, she can lay eggs for the rest of her life. She may lay up to 1 million eggs in her lifetime. Bees fly into the fields to gather food and water. They store honey to eat in winter. A worker honeybee collects nectar all day. Yet, in his lifetime, the nectar he collects makes less than 2 ounces of honey. A colony, however, can gather 25 pounds of nectar in a day. Worker honeybees suck up nectar. Their long tongues act like straws. The bee puts the nectar into an empty cell in the hive. When the cell is full, other bees put wax caps on the cells. Wax is produced by special glands in a bee's abdomen. The wax comes out through pores and forms tiny white flakes. The bee moves the flakes up to its jaws. It chews the wax. When the texture is just right, the wax will become part of a cell. Beekeeping is a highly developed art. Beekeepers tend about 4 million hives. They gather and sell over 200 million pounds of honey each year. They also gather and sell about 4 million pounds of wax. One of the uses of wax is in the making of lipsticks. Bees are useful for many things. They pollinate flowers. Unit 69, an unforgettable tragedy. Here is an event that has lived in history. It is truly an unforgettable tragedy. The event is the Fifth Crusade. This crusade was better known as the Children's Crusade. It took place in 1212. This tragic crusade burned itself into the hearts, minds, memories, and imaginations of almost all the people in Europe. People felt bad about it for many years afterward. The reason for the long lingering remorse might be this. Why did the parents let their children go? The Holy Land was 1,000 miles away. It was held by hard-fighting Muslims. Did the parents not foresee life and death hardships? Did they think some magic carpet would whisk their children to the Holy Land? This crusade was made up of young boys and girls. Many of the children were less than 12 years old. There were 2 armies. One was from France. The other was from Germany. None reached the Holy Land. Almost no children ever returned to their homes. What happened to most of the children? Many died of hunger. Many died of cold weather. Fatigue took its toll. It is a long march to the Mediterranean Sea. Some did reach the sea, but it was stormy. Most children were drowned in overloaded ships. Some reached the shore of Africa. They were captured, then they were sold as slaves. Some people think that this great loss of children was woven into the story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin. The piper led the children out of the town. They were never seen again. Like the piper, The crusade had a powerful drawing power, but this piper played a tune of death. Unit 70. Ancient Firefighting. Fire is both a friend and a foe. It is a friend when under control. It is a foe when out of control. Long ago, people found that fire could be put out by throwing water on it. This worked well when people lived some distance apart. But when people moved into towns, their houses were usually side by side. This closeness created a problem. Now, a burning house was a danger to all. The problem was soon solved. If a fire broke out, people quickly formed a line. The line led from a pond or well to the house that was on fire. Buckets of water were passed along the line. With the passing of time, another problem arose. The buildings became bigger. With bigger buildings, you had bigger flames. These flames flared out. Now, the firefighters could not get close enough to the burning building to throw the water from the buckets on it. How did they solve this problem? Old records give us a glimpse. This may sound surprising. Fire equipment goes back to the time of Christ. Caesar Augustus, 63 BC to 14 AD, formed the first fire department in Rome. 700 firefighters lived in firehouses throughout the city. They used a wheeled chariot that squirted water on fires. This water squirt was a huge syringe. The bulb may have been as long as a man's body. It was squeezed by means of a giant screw turned by a firefighter. Such squirts were also used when the Great Fire swept London in 1666. Hand syringes 3 feet long were also used. These squirts were held by 2 firefighters while a third worked the plunger. It took the London fire to awaken people to the need for better equipment. Unit 71. Basketball. Who invented basketball? Most people know the answer. It's James A. Naismith. Naismith was an instructor in physical education. He worked at the YMCA training school in Massachusetts. Later, this became Springfield College. His goal was to provide an indoor sport for the winter. Naismith conceived the game of basketball in 1891. He formed the basic rules. He asked the janitor to nail 2 boxes at each end of a gym. The janitor could only find some round half-bushel baskets. He nailed these to the balconies at each end. Players used a soccer ball. The object of the game was to put the ball into the basket. Thus, we have basketball. The half-bushel baskets had fixed bottoms. When the ball went to the basket, there was a problem. A ladder had to be used to get the ball out. Soon, metal baskets with bottoms replaced the wooden ones. These baskets had a small hole in the bottom. A pole was used to poke the ball out. The next improvement. The metal basket now had a closed net attached. Now the official pulled a cord attached to the net. The ball then would drop down. In about 1913, the bottomless baskets came into use. You wonder why it took so long? But getting the ball out of the baskets was not such a big job. The scores were low. A typical score for a full game might be 19 to 17. Backboards were introduced in 1894. Before that, spectators would lean over balconies, blocking shots. The soccer ball was also replaced that year. The new ball came in two parts. The outer covering was leather. The inner part was a rubber bladder. The opening was laced. The laceless ball came into use in 1937. The molded ball of today became official in only 1950. Unit 72. The migration of birds. Birds are lucky. They can chirp, have wings, will travel. Birds migrate for various reasons, but mainly it's the food supply. How do birds find their way? A partial answer. They follow such landmarks as coastlines. Some birds fly inland routes. Perhaps they follow rivers or mountain ranges. But some birds fly only at night. Then landmarks are of little use. There is still much to learn about migration. Great distances are covered during migrations. The Arctic tern holds the record. It flies 22,000 miles round trip. It leaves the Arctic Circle in late August. Its destination is the Antarctic Circle. Later, the terns fly north. They arrive at the Arctic Circle about mid-June. The tern may hold the record, but the bobolink is competing. Bobolinks fly in one big flock. Their route is called the bobolink route. Few other birds ever use it. Flying only at night, they leave the island of Jamaica and fly 500 miles over the ocean non-stop to Mexico. But the hummingbird is the real wonder bird. It may fly from the eastern United States over the Gulf of Mexico to the Yucatan in Mexico. How can such a small bird have enough energy to fly such a distance non-stop? This bird is the smallest and daintiest one in the U.S. It is less than 4 inches long. It lives on nectar from flowers. This nectar provides the power to its wings. The wings move about 60 to 70 times a second, not minute. You can be sure of this. There are no flower refueling stations on the Gulf. There are no islands. Some speculate the birds get into air currents, but nobody really knows. It's a mystery. It's a wonder. It's good to still have wonders.